Welcome, everybody, to another installment of I'll Hang Up and Listen. For once, I'm not riding solo on this. I don't know what type of train it is to call tonight, but I got producer Steve by my side to talk about this 7-4 loss by the Buffalo Sabres on Hockey Fights Cancer Night. Before we get into that, I definitely just want to recognize all those people that are currently fighting their battle with cancer and those who have lost their battle with cancer. I tweeted earlier at the beginning of the game. I have, my heart is heavy. Having lost my mom when I was 21 years old to cancer. It's never an easy thing. Even today, 12, 13, years later, it's always been difficult, and it never. I wouldn't say it gets easier, but you just kind of learn to kind of deal with the pain, not to bring the mood down or anything it is, but definitely want to recognize those people that are out there fighting their battles still. And it's always nice to see the turnout for Hockey Fights Cancer Night and what the players do and who they're fighting for and the fans who they're fighting for, and just hear the stories of survival and even the stories of loss. They're very touching, and just hearing that how much some of these people that that have passed on were loved and beloved by friends and family, during the broadcast. I always appreciate it. But Steve, again, not a great night for the Buffalo Sabres.
That's a way of putting it. Yeah. These are the kinds of nights that before the season began, you were kind of expecting. Yep. Before Craig Anderson showed us that when you've played that position for about 20 years, you get pretty good at it, even if you're old. Yep. And everything that we had, a lack of Eichel, this getting pumped like this was kind of what we expected more nights than not. It doesn't hurt quite as bad as that 5-zip just slaughter we suffered against the Flames, but still doesn't feel great, especially to have closed the gap a little bit and then just get buried right down all over again.
Yeah, it's you kept fighting back, inching back, and then you have defensive zone breakdowns, offensive zone breakdowns, neutral zone breakdowns, just not go your way all night. And one of the things that really stuck out to me, I guess, in the Sabres Twitter land is the amount of heat that number 26 took tonight, and some of it rightfully so, for sure. That second goal was definitely on him. He made a bad play on the wall, and then got beat and out-muscled on the way back. I don't think that was a lack of effort, personally. People say he's not trying. No, I don't think it had anything to do with him not trying. You could tell me that Rasmus Dahlin, a guy who we all see how hard he works, especially in the offseason, is just going to give up on a play, especially when said play was caused by him. If I'm him, I'm working my ass off to get back. I don't think it was a lack of effort. He just got, out-muscled and, almost took a penalty, and that puck ended up in the back of the net. But the first goal wasn't on him, personally. If you watch the replay, he clearly was tripped behind the net. I mean, it was a big mistake on the referee's part to not call that and end up in the back of our net. And then, obviously, Jokiharju and Hag didn't have a good night. They were on for, I think, at least 3 goals against. And then just overall, man, it wasn't a complete 60-minute effort from the entire team. You have Brett Murray getting his first goal of his NHL career, second point of his career. And then Jeff Skinner having a nice night. But, I mean, you can't really look at any single player tonight and say, oh, they had a great game from start to finish.
Yeah, there were no truly exceptional performances, but the people that you see perform well night in and night out, they're continuing to do what they do. Most notably are the players like Dylan Cousins. They're always trying to contribute something. They're always trying to move the play forward in some way, shape, or form. Asplund, a little less flashy with some different line mates these days, but he's still putting in the work, the kind of stuff that makes him the player that we are all, becoming a big fan of. And surprisingly, players like Kyle Okposo, he's not deviating from his game. Sure, everybody's making some mistakes out there. No, he's playing perfect, but and I think that's the thing that we got to remember. No one had any high hopes going into this season that this was going to be a team that was going to be a contender in any capacity. The goal is to just not be dead last again under the Donnie Meatball system. And right now I think we're 25th out of 32nd You know, so we're marginally above that threshold of not being in the bottom five. So, you know, again, nothing we're going to do is going to make the headlines this year, but the stuff that is happening that's, you know, worth being happy about, it, you know, it's not flashy, it's not game breaking Connor McDavid scoring while covered by four people kind of stuff, but it's better hockey than this club has been playing in the past several years, and that's the kind of stuff you gotta, you know, if you're watching the game instead of just watching for the dang it's, that's the kind of stuff that's going to make you like optimistic for what's coming down the pipeline, because the core that's here now is improving, objectively improving.
Yes.
I don't care which you know, macro or micro stats you're looking at. Things are better than they were.
I couldn't agree more. You know, and like I said, I don't like to get into debates with the analytics side of things. Like, you know, I know a little bit about analytics. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know a lot about analytics. But, I mean, there are things also that analytics can't tell you. There are things that, you know, as good as things might look down on paper, when you look at this roster and you look at this team, there's a huge lack of talent. There just is. There just is. I mean, granted, Tage Thompson's having an unbelievable start to his season. You know, and like you said, Rasmus Asplund's had a nice season. But there are things that you know, when there are things that separate this roster from Tampa's roster, clearly, from Boston's roster, clearly, from Colorado's roster, from Vegas's roster. And that's just elite talent, which you don't have. You know, you hope that the Rasmus Dahlin develops into. People forget he's just turned 22 years old. He's barely old enough to drink. And, you know, he's still learning. You know what I mean? He was brought into the league at 18 years old on a really, really bad team. He's had how many coaches already? 3? This is on his third coach in his 4th year or 5th year or whatever. I think it's in his 4th season. Like, you know, it's so difficult to really sustain success, not just as a player, but as a team, you know, as a unit, you know, when you have turnover at those like roles. And, you know, you look at a guy like Rasmus Dahlin and he's still, you know, I don't want to say he's still raw. I mean, there's a lot more to be desired from him. I'll be the first to admit, man, he did not have a great night tonight. He didn't. But you see the flashes of greatness in him. And when you look up at this roster, you don't have a Pasternak. You don't have a Stamkos or a Kucherov or a Mark Stone or just, you know, name any player, a Braden Point, like Alexander Ovechkin, a Sidney Crosby, a Evgeny Malkin. You don't have any of those guys on this team. There's none. You have none. Well, the closest thing you had to when you shipped them off a few weeks ago to Vegas for 60 cents on the dollar. You don't have those guys. You don't. You have a team that you started the season off with the expectation to probably be in the thick of it for the Shane Wright lottery. You probably still are right in the thick of it. You know what I mean? Like you've lost 3. I think you've only won 3 of the last 15. Like, now you're starting to look like the team you were supposed to be, but you're competitive. You keep yourself in games. I've said it 100 times. This team is going to grind out loser points. They did it the other night. They ground out a loser point the other night. I'm sorry, that's just what this team is. Look at the roster. Look at the roster. I'm sorry. As nice of a story as Tage Thompson is, he is not an elite hockey player. He's just not. I love Tage Thompson. I love what he's done this year. And this is nothing against Tage Thompson. He's not that guy. Once you have those players in place, he's going to look phenomenal on your second line. Like, you don't have any first-line players on this team right now. You just don't. Agreed right here from Brooke. Guys, they're at least fun to watch most of the time now. Quinn Paterka, so many other young players in Rochester are going to be beasts when they're brought up to the NHL. I agree. That's why they're down there, so they can develop things we haven't done for a decade. Let players develop at a lower level of hockey, whether it be the AHL, the OHL, whether you let them stay in college. Like, you know, you see guys start off so far behind their development because you force them into situations that they're not ready for in the beginning. That's how you end up here in another rebuild. That's why we're in the situation we're in. That's why when you look at your roster, you don't have a Pasternak, you don't have a Braden Point, you don't have a Kucherov, you don't have a Stamkos, you don't have a Mark Stone, you don't have a Jack Eichel anymore. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. You don't have a Barkov. Like, and you sit there and you boo these players because they're not winning? You didn't expect them to win from the start! Nobody! There isn't a single person, I am sorry. And I was actually optimistic at the start of the season, but there's no way in hell anybody, including myself, could have predicted that they would have started the way they did. Nobody. You had 40-year-old Craig Anderson in that. We were considered to be historically worse than what we were in the tank year. Like, come on, guys, let's be real. Let's be real. You're gonna boo this team? Come on. Like, stop it. They've been entertaining to watch for the first time in 5 years. You're not seeing a team just lay down on their back and just give up. I'm appreciative of that. I want to build off that. But I'm certainly not going to sit here and boo the players. That is so fucking stupid. So stupid. Like, it's...
Could not agree more. You know, that's some real punching down that you're doing if you're booing this franchise. Like, all the $750,000 a year contracts are doing all the booing that you ever could.
Yeah, like, the fucking team is on the league minimum.
Two out of three players on this team are a fucking rental, and the few people that are worth keeping around, with the exception of, you know, that one contract that's entirely too long and entirely too much money, but Botterill made that deal, or else he would have been run out of town because Jeff Skinner was the first good thing to happen in a minute. So contextually, I understand why that deal was made. I still don't agree with it. It shouldn't be that long, and it should not cost that much fucking money. But I can understand what position that dude was in when he signed that deal. But that said, the people that are here that, you know, that are part of the Kevin Adams, we want players who want to be here, they're on 3-year deals. Rasmus Dahlin, 3-year deal. Casey Middlestat, 3-year deal. Olofsson, 3-year deal. Everyone's just getting 3-year deals. No one's getting signed for term right now because I don't even think from the top down people know exactly what this team is going to be. I'm glad Donnie's got a vision, but, you know, 2 out of 3 players are just here for a year. We'll see how the year goes. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Brooke here. Granat is probably the best coach they've had so far. I wish they would have brought Chris Taylor up to Buffalo instead of firing him in Rochester, since he coached so many guys in a roster. But he's in New Jersey now, obviously, with Lindy Ruff as an assistant, not a head coach, just clarifying. I agree. It would have been nice to see Chris Taylor retained and not let go. But, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Seth Appert's obviously doing a really good job down in Rochester. I agree, though. It would have been nice to keep Chris Taylor around. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, back to the main point, you know, no one expected this team to be any good, but they are getting better. It's small steps, little victories, not those moral victories that Ralph Kruger was so stoked about, but, you know, things are objectively better. Like, tonight is the 3rd multi-point game for Jeff Skinner in Jesus Christ, I don't know how long. The first one that came was like the first one since I think 2019 or something. And now he's had 3 just this season, multi-goal games. Let me clarify, not just multi-point, multi-goal games from a dude who's getting paid $9 million and, you know, pretty much from the moment that deal was inked has not quite lived up to that price tag. But he's contributing. He's playing better. Tage Thompson playing better. Victor Olofsson, infinitely more of a 200-foot player than he had ever been previously.
Yes, and the numbers say that too, right? We'll talk analytics. The numbers say that Victor Olofsson has been so much better 5-on-5 under Don Brown than we've ever been.
Colin Miller playing some of the best defensive hockey of his life.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Colin Miller, if he keeps up the way he's playing, is going to garner you a first-round pick at the deadline. I'm telling you right now, a right-handed shot defenseman, if you go into the deadline and Colin Miller is flirting with around 40 points, he's going to get you a first, because teams that are looking to compete are always going to overpay for those positions. It's like you saw what Rasmus Ristolainen got as a right-handed shot. I think Colin Mills worlds better than Rasmus Ristolainen. Maybe we could fleece Philly again. You never know. We'll see. But
no, I don't think they're that.
No.
I mean, I lived in Philly, so they're pretty stupid, but they're not that stupid.
I know.
I don't know.
They gave up a first and a second and a player. Robert Hagg, who turns out is a better defenseman than Rasmus Ristolainen.
And it cost about $3 million less.
Agreed. Yeah, he's been a lot. He's been definitely the best bang for your buck you get as compared to having 55 on this roster.
Yeah, perfectly competent third pairing defenseman, which is essentially numbers wise all Rasmus Ristolainen is. And the problem here was we were playing him for the most ice time of any defenseman on the team, and we were wondering why so many defensive fuck ups were happening. You're putting the guy who's getting bodied by ghosts and soccer kicking in front of the net to get the puck out of the way, and you're wondering why defensive breakdowns are taking place.
Yeah, and another comment from our book. Kruger messed up Middlestad's confidence by sending him down to Roch, although I think it helped him. It hurt him at the same time, but he's been looking really good this season too. Yeah, before the injury, Middlestad definitely, was on the up and up. I even thought under Kruger, and, I'll give credit when credit is due. I thought even under Kruger, his 200-foot game improved a lot. He was starting to look more like a complete hockey player. And I don't like giving Ralph Kruger credit for anything because I point the finger outside of just at the Magulas at him the most for the downfall of the roster that we had and what it could have been. You think what it could have been if you would have maybe just brought in Don Granato as your head coach from the start, because night and day difference between just effort and schematically how they play. As a team, as a 5-on-5, as a 5-man unit, like it's just worlds of a difference. Another thing that came out today, Jake DeBrusk is requested a trade from the Boston Bruins. I know there was some smoke around this in the offseason. One insider said that Ottawa was in on talks with him. They might believe that Ottawa would probably circle back. I would love Jake DeBrusk on this hockey team. I think he's the type of guy that Don Granato would love to coach. I think he's an American boy too. So, right up his alley, probably grew up. I'm not sure. Maybe you can look it up real quick, Steve, where he played before getting drafted. I want to say he was actually with the U.S. NTDP in that. I want to say he was. So he might have actually already been coached by Granato in the past. But that would be a really nice addition. A left winger who I truly believe just does need a change in scenery.
Yeah, it looks like in the WHL, he was playing for the Swift Current Broncos, followed by the Red Deer Rebels, and then, of course, season with the Providence Bruins, and then Boston for the past 5 seasons. I mean, not, at least just raw numbers-wise, his one truly bad year was just last year, 14 points in 41 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's similar to Middlestad in that he may not be living up to that first-round pick hype, that kind of projection that, they would have for them. But I believe he was also the third in a consecutive series of picks that Boston had in that particular draft year. They had 3 first-round picks back to back to back, and I believe Jake DeBrusk was either the second or third pick in all of that. So that said, I think it's just, when you're a first-round pick, there's just so much more pressure on you than anything. Case in point, someone like Rasmus Dahlin, big first-round pick, everyone wants him to be like the guy who can put the entire city of Buffalo on his shoulders alone. I mean, he's got the thighs for it. But that said, he is still just a kid. Jake DeBrusk.
They're all still kids.
Most of them are still just kids. Jake DeBrusk, 25 years old, so there's definitely still upside. There could be aspects of his game that we may not have seen. But I think if Boston's smart, they're trading him out of the East. Why do the Buffalo thing and have to play against your trade mistakes night in and night out in your own division, no less? I mean, doesn't really apply to the Ullmark thing because Ullmark isn't getting all that many starts right now. which is a shame, Despite everything that happened, I still liked Olmark as a player and as a person. So sad to see him go. But that said, I think if Boston's smart, they try to find a suitor somewhere outside of the East, so that way they don't have to deal with him quite as much. Mm-hmm. And ideally wouldn't have to deal with them unless they made it to the Cup final, which, as many say, don't count Boston out till they're out. But I also don't think that this is going to be Boston's year either. I think there's too much heating up for too many different teams. Like, obviously the Panthers are hot. The Hurricanes are hot. Tampa's going to keep Tampa, and then the West, the Flames are on a heater. The Oilers are playing great. Avalanche are finally starting to find their game, and they're just dominating everyone in their path right now. So I don't think it's going to be Boston's year, so they might be safe trading him in the East. I don't know if Buffalo's going to be that team to make the move for him. I mean, it would be nice just to have another established NHL player who might stick around for more than a year, someone whose rights you could actually control because they'll be an RFA instead of a UFA. But I don't know. It's tough to say. And I think if they're trying to trade to the East, they might have a higher asking price just by virtue of having to deal with them more often on that on the other side of that trade, rather than shipping them off to a team like Anaheim or something. Because I feel like a Jake DeBrusk could serve quite well on a team like Anaheim that's growing, looking to find a new identity, probably moving some older pieces of their own.
I like the Anaheim prediction. I like that.
It's possible. Everyone always says it's like, oh, Anaheim, oh, LA. I think LA's got a few too many fires to put out before they start thinking of, big roster moves. Not that, taking $3.6 million on your books is a huge roster move, but it's an RFA at the end of the year. That's a conversation you got to have. That's, you got to look down the path. And I think Anaheim has enough people that are going to be moving out, particularly at the end of this season, that picking up a guy like Jake DeBrusk, who's 25, who has, plenty of game left to play in the prime of his athletic career. I think that could actually be a pretty good move for them. So,
yeah, I definitely like that Anaheim prediction a lot. I think that's a team he would really fit well on. The focus wouldn't solely be on him. He's still young. It's a fast hockey team. And like you said, they're on the up and up, and a guy like him could really come into a positive situation. And in a market in Anaheim where, there's a little bit less pressure to be good or great, like you have a lot of other sports franchises in the general vicinity of where you play in California, so you're not exactly like focused on a lot.
Yeah,
I think Anaheim would be a good fit for him. I would love him in Buffalo. I don't rule it out as far as an interdivision trade. I think a guy like Jake DeBrusk isn't a guy, honestly, that you're going to look at down the line and be extremely scared of. Even though I do think he's a really good hockey player, I could see them maybe taking the best deal on the table no matter who makes the deal. But here's the thing. I don't think Buffalo is going to be even in the conversation, and not because I don't have faith in Kevin Adams to do that. I just don't think they see themselves as a team right now that should be buying hockey players to get better right now. I'd love it. Don't get me wrong. I think he would help this hockey team, but I don't think they're really putting themselves in a situation where you might give up an R2 Ristolainen or Rasmus Asplund or draft picks to acquire a guy like Jake DeBrusk, because I don't think Boston's looking strictly for draft picks. So they're looking for players that are going to help their team this season while they're trying to make a run.
Fun Eastern Conference trade that could potentially go down closer to the deadline. What if Jake DeBrusk is acquired by the New York Islanders? That's
another good prediction.
I think that with the left side of that team is a little bit on the soft side. They got Beauvillier, Matt Martin, Richard Panik, Zach Parise.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Jake DeBrusk thrown into the equation on that left side could strengthen some of that offense on an Islanders team that could be trying to make a push. Trying to, maybe a nice young 25-year-old inserted into the lineup could be exactly the smelling salt they need to wake their asses up, because they have not been on to the start that anyone thought they were going to have. Like, everyone kind of had New York as one of the Eastern favorites. Tampa, obviously, you want that three-peat. Florida's hot as hell, but yeah, one of the other names you always heard is like, oh yeah, it's going to be the Islanders. The Islanders are definitely going to be top 1 or 2. There's no question. And now it's like, maybe it is a question. We're a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, and Lou Lamoriello loves making deals like that, especially either in season or at the deadline. Whatever is going to make his team better, even if it makes his team just 5% better, he's going to do it, because I think their time. They look at their window, and it's now. They have the goaltending, they have the skill in place, even though they're a boring as shit team to watch. I think their time is definitely now, and they're a team that I think, when you look at Jake DeBrusk and what he can do for your franchise, even in just the short term, like we said earlier, he comes into his RFA status after this season, so whoever trades for him would retain his rights. That's, I think, even more leverage for Boston. You know what I mean? It's not he's going into UFA status; it's RFA. So I think that provides a lot of leverage for a team like Boston in a trade, and maybe even increase the return, which is, again, why I don't think Buffalo would be in the conversation, because it's probably going to cost them more than they would like to give up.
Yeah, I think, Buffalo's name of the game for Buffalo's success is just, fuck rentals, get picks. We know what this team's going to be. The only reason we should be taking on any rentals or bad contracts is if we're also getting a pick. Take a Boychuk, but get something else out of it. Mm-hmm. We can't just be picking up another Eric Stahl hoping that he's going to offer that veteran presence for somebody, but really he's just going to be even slower than the slowest version of Kyle Okposo. We can't be doing that. This is a young team. This is a young team. So, if you need veteran presence, you need veteran presence that can still actually keep up with the pace of the game. So, I don't know. It's I definitely don't think Buffalo's in the conversation for a player like Jake DeBrusk, as much as he might thrive in that system.
I think he would.
But, I think it's more likely going to go to a West Coast team that's making a facelift like Anaheim, or someone in the East who's trying to cement their spot in the postseason, that knows that this right now is the time to do it if we're ever going to get it done.
I agree. Even up Florida, I'm not sure what Florida's cap situation looks like. I could see a Florida team making that decision. I think he really just adds another dynamic to that roster that they probably value. A team that looks so good right now. Even though some of the controversy that surrounded the team in the beginning with Joe Quenneville, before he resigned. Our next game, I believe, is when, Steve? Now,
the next game, if I'm not mistaken, isn't until Thursday, and it's actually against the Panthers. So
Panthers, that should be fun. Oh, that should be a lot of fun.
And it's on the road.
Yeah. So. Yep. Go down to Florida. I'm assuming that if you're down in Florida, you might be playing Tampa as well.
I
would almost assume.
Surprisingly, no. They go up on Saturday to play the Hurricanes.
Thank God.
So,
and Hurricanes, always a tough game against the Hurricanes too, man.
Very Panthers and Canes.
Hockey team.
So that said, the only Buffalo win you should reasonably expect is next Monday against the Pats.
You hope so. You hope Buffalo can pull one off Monday Night Football against the Patriots. But here's the thing, with the Don Granato coach team right now, how they, again, they'll never not show up at the opening faceoff. They're always going to compete, and they're always going to skate hard, and they're always going to work their tails off. So you are going to get games like you saw when we did play Tampa. We beat Tampa. We did beat Edmonton. That is going to happen. It's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable over 82 games. You don't have the talent. I've said it 100 times. What's going to separate us from being a really good team is the fact that you don't have the elite talent and the guys who are going to go out there and put the team on their back, even for just a couple shifts, and help push you over that ledge of between winning, or that line of winning and losing. You don't have the Pasternaks. You don't have again, I'm not going to keep going on the names of elite players in this league. It's not the McDavids, the Drysdales. You don't have those guys. Those guys can make crazy individual effort plays. Well, when you need them to help you win hockey games, we don't have that, and we don't have the goaltending. We have AHL level goaltending. Dustin Kotarski can sporadically here and there maybe give you a good game, and you hope that you can get a win from him and steal a win. But he's just not that goalie. He's not.
He's really not.
You can't expect Craig Anderson to come back and be that guy. If and when the guy does come back, because we thought he'd be back by now. So, I don't know what these fans expect out of a team, out of a roster that was brought in to be a rebuild team. You want to win games. You want to be competitive. You don't want to finish in the basement. But that's what this is. It's the beginning of a rebuild. And you look at this roster, the names on this roster, and you can't sit there and boo players because they have an off night. Well, who is having a good night? Joker didn't have a good night. Ag didn't have a good night. Colin Miller didn't have a good night. None of them had a good night. It's just you're spotlighting 26 already because he's the franchise defenseman, the franchise player on this roster right now. And I just don't want to see us go through this vicious circle again. We did it with O'Reilly. We did it with Eichel. And now we're going to do it with Dahlin. Come on, guys. Get over yourselves. Do you hate talent? Do you hate good hockey players? It drives me fucking nuts, man.
Yeah, people need hobbies. I don't know what it is. Again, I really think it's just, the goaltending. The goaltending is an absolute nightmare. It's grim. I mean, we could woulda, coulda, shoulda all night, but that absolutely during that fucking goaltending gold rush 2 off seasons ago, any fucking buddy could have been acquired, and we sat with Allmark and all of our various fallbacks. Carter Hutton, who is definitely living up to his contract.
Yeah.
Is he even making $750,000? I don't even know. I don't know if that should be allowed.
He might be making $1 million. I don't know.
No, he's making the league minimum, and
is it?
Well deserved. But he's also on the injured reserve right now.
Yeah,
so.
I just
he's honestly doing a better job there.
Yeah, for me, it's just that right there. I mean, that's probably one of Kevin Adams' few downfalls, was not addressing the goaltending situation and just assuming that you were going to have Linus Ullmark was going to stay true to his word and possibly re-sign with you. That was probably one of the few mistakes you did make in the beginning as a general manager. Because in hockey's a business, you don't trust players at their words. I don't care what player it is. I don't care.
Yeah, if they're telling you that, maybe extend them for a couple extra years.
I think he was in the process of having a kid too at the time. He didn't want to get, he wasn't going to be honest with you and be like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to go to free agency. No, he doesn't want to uproot his life in the middle of having a child, being a new dad, new husband.
That's fair.
He wants to have all his ducks in a row and doing that, have time and not have to leave his family. You can't take players at their word. I'm sorry. I don't care how much you like them. It's a business. And when your business involves, you could, with a snap of a finger, have to uproot your life from one city to another, whether you're going from one state over or 15 states over to the other side of the country,
or to another country,
or another country. Yeah, it's
it's entirely possible.
It is, and that's why I don't trust players at their word. I just don't. Just don't give up and at least put in effort. That's what's important for the season, in my eyes. By the way, Upel has been good this season too in Rochester. He has been good. I still wouldn't really test him up at the NHL until the end of the season.
Nah, that's throwing him to the wolves. Bring up Hauser instead.
Yeah,
let the legend of Hauser continue.
Yeah.
Same with Quinn. Same with Krebs. Same with Paterka. Same with Power. Leave them all the fuck alone. Let them dominate where they're dominating.
Yep.
Don't bring them up into this right now. It's not gonna do anything good for him.
We did it last year with UPL, who already had injury issues to begin with. He got hurt at the end of the season, and you just don't want to do that to the kid again and fuck with his confidence. And like I said, everyone knows my feelings about who the next goaltender of this team is. He's still a few years away. But with that being said, Steve, any final thoughts before we head out here?
Final thoughts. Again, the rest of the games this week for the Sabres are going to be tough. Definitely those we're going to make a statement games that last week was supposed to be just by virtue of how many games we had in a given week. But these are those teams with that elite talent that we just don't have, and seeing how well we measure up, that's going to be a very important thing to see. Just hopefully if they get their asses handed to them, they learn something. They see, they go back to the tape the next night and they go, how do these people just, deke me out of my shorts? How did they tie my skate laces together while I wasn't even looking? How did they do that? And then learn from it.
You're not wrong. What's the one quote from is it The Dark Knight? What is it? Oh God, what is it? It was near the dawn is always the.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah, it's always darkest before the dawn. In order to succeed, you have to struggle and go through pain. That's how you learn to be great, right? That's how you learn to be good, is through pain and through struggle, and that's what this team is doing right now. The dawn is always darkest. Wait. Oh God, I can't remember what it is.
The night is always darkest before
the dawn. Yes, that is. The night is always darkest before the dawn. So, essentially there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Just, keep going down this road of development, keep going down, doing what we're doing. And this is the right way to build this hockey team. This is the right way to build a successful hockey team. You got to go out there and you have to let these kids struggle and go through growing pains and keep them under one system, under one coach, and let them learn and build together as a team. That is the only way you're going to get this done the right way. That's just how it's done. So with that, guys, I will hang up and listen. Remember, this is brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case, over there in George Urban. Definitely get over there for all your game night needs, where I always go whenever I have to get some adult beverages, whenever I head over to Studio D, or my buddy Greg Days for a Sabres game or a Bills game, whatever it might be. So get over there. Don't haste. Buy a case. The place to buy a case. Outlet Liquor. So before that, guys, like I said before, it's not all doom and gloom in Buffalo. Agreed. With that, Steve, I will hang up and listen. And I got 3 words for everybody. Let's go, Sabres.
Sabres.